it comes to whole grains, you're probably familiar with the popular ones like rice, oats, and quinoa. But beyond the ones that get all the love there is a whole world of whole grain waiting to be discovered. So to introduce us to a few of her favorite, registered dietitian Sue Ma is joining us this morning. Good morning, Sue. So great to have you on your morning. Briefly tell us about the 3 whole grains you're going to share with us today.
Yeah, so it's Nutrition Month, so happy Nutrition Month. And I'm going to be talking about 3 different whole grains: wheat berries, farro, and buckwheat. So I'd like to describe what they are, how to cook them, and how we can use them in our everyday meals.
Okay, so farro and buckwheat I'm familiar with, but wheat berries. Let's start with wheat berries. What are they and how do you cook them?
Yeah, so wheat berries are actually the kernels of whole wheat. And because it's a whole grain, it contains all 3 parts of the grain. So the bran, which is the outer layer, it contains fiber. The inner layer of the kernel is the endosperm, and that contains carbohydrate and some protein. Then that tiny little layer inside is called the germ, and that's where we find magnesium, B vitamins, and healthy fats like vitamin E. So, yeah, so packed full of nutrition.
No kidding.
So wheat berries, they kind of look like brown rice, and they have a sort of a chewy, nutty flavor. And they're packed with nutrition. They contain protein and about 5 grams of fiber in just a 1/4 cup serving. So that's about 20% of your fiber intake for the day.
How do you cook them?
So super nutritious. You put them in a big pot of water, and then you let it come to a boil, and then you've got to let it simmer for about an hour. So now with wheat berries, they do take a longer time to cook. So I like to cook a big batch. But if you soak the wheat berries overnight in the fridge in water, that helps to soften them and decreases the cooking time.
Kind of like legumes, to soak them overnight, but then they almost like take as long as cooking rice. So just kind of keep that in mind. Oh, they look delicious. Look at that salad.
Yeah,
okay, what do we have
next? This
next?
is my recipe. It's a wheat berry salad recipe that I've made with some different fruit and a lemon citrus dressing. So delicious.
Okay, let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, this is farro. Now, you said you were familiar with farro.
Yes.
And it's another whole grain, pretty similar to the wheat berries. They just look a little bit larger, and they have a slightly sweet, nutty flavor. And so farro is actually wheat that's grown in milder, warmer climates, whereas wheat berries are wheat that are grown in a colder climate. So that's the biggest difference there. When it comes to nutrition, same thing, packed with protein, packed with fiber. So what I've done here, you cook it the same way. You put it in a big pot of water, let it boil, and then I actually soaked these overnight. So I only had to boil them for about 10 minutes.
What?
So they were done quite quickly. Yeah, soak them overnight. Take them out of the fridge in the morning or whenever at dinner time, and then bring it to a boil, let it simmer for 10 minutes, done. So I love grain bowls, and so I just made a grain bowl using farro.
So
I've added some salmon, my favorite veggies, carrots, cucumbers, avocado, and hearty meal.
It really does have a nice texture too. A little bit softer than what you were describing, the wheat berries. A little bit easier, I find, to digest as well. My all-time favorite is buckwheat. I love buckwheat soba noodles. I like using buckwheat in itself. But for people who haven't tried buckwheat, what do you tell us about this?
Yeah, so buckwheat, it's interesting because it is actually not wheat, even though it's in the name. Yeah. So buckwheat is actually a seed, and it's part of the rhubarb family, right? It has that same sort of nutty flavor, lots of protein, lots of fiber. And you're right, you can use buckwheat flour to make buckwheat pancakes, or you can get buckwheat pasta, also called soba noodles, and they cook so quickly. My favorite too. So I've made a sesame soba noodle dish. So delicious. And the dressing is basically some soy sauce, rice vinegar, sesame oil. I've
Sue, this looks so good.
Sesame seeds on top. Yeah,
thank you so much, Sue. Those are such great recommendations. And hey, if you're watching this and your mouth is salivating, well, we've got all the recipes on our social media. Sue, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.